Hey guys, tonight we're turning back time to a place that seems almost impossible. A dry desert, no electricity, no air conditioning, and yet somehow the ancient Persians managed to make and store ice. So before we dive in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy these slow, calming stories I bring you. And if you're feeling generous, leave a comment with your city and current time. I love seeing where and when we all drift off together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Section 1. Hey guys, tonight we're heading into the heart of the Persian desert. Yes, that place where sand dunes stretch for miles, where the sun feels like it's trying to bake you alive, and where, somehow, impossibly, people once stored ice. You're standing at the edge of a vast ochre plain. The air is still, almost too still. The wind is sleeping. All around you, sand shifts softly underfoot like powdered silk, warm from the memory of a brutal sun. But above, the sky stretches black and glittering, as if someone spilled sugar crystals across velvet. You shiver a little. Not from fear, though, if we're being honest, you probably wouldn't survive a single day out here with your modern iced coffee habits, but from a surprising chill in the air. Yes, chill. In the desert. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling generous, post your city and local time in the comments. I love seeing where we all fall asleep together. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take your first few steps toward the ancient village ahead, your shoes crunching faintly over compacted dust. Somewhere in the distance, a camel groans like it just finished a dissertation. Stone walls rise out of the earth like forgotten teeth, low, worn, sun-bleached. Here, you're in what would have been an oasis settlement on the Iranian plateau, around 500 BCE. The Achaemenid Empire is humming in its prime. And yet, no ice makers, no plastic coolers, no 7-Eleven down the road. Still, villagers have found a way to keep things cold. As you enter the dusty alleys, the smell of warm dates and charcoal floats from a nearby home. A woman sweeps her threshold with a palm broom. A sleepy cat watches you, like it owns the whole desert. You nod. It does. Despite the evening calm, there's a hushed buzz in the air. Families preparing for dinner, copper pots clinking, water being poured into terracotta jugs. You notice something strange. Many of the houses have underground storage pits, lined with straw and something dark. Maybe charcoal? You peer inside one. It's cool. Genuinely cool. A little damp even. Here's where your modern sensibilities kick in. How is anything here cool? Well, the ancient Persians weren't just good at conquering and building road networks. They were temperature hackers. See, while daytime temperatures in this region could easily roast a flatbread, the nights dipped to near freezing in winter months. And they didn't just suffer through it, they used it. You lean against a mud brick wall. It's warm from the sun, but not unpleasant. The walls here are thick, sometimes over 3 feet wide, and made of a special mixture called sarouj, a magical cocktail of sand, clay, egg whites, yes, egg whites, goat hair, and lime. Sounds like a cursed baking show, but this stuff is water-resistant and insulation gold. Historians still argue whether this recipe was purely practical, or if there was an element of ritual to it. Egg whites weren't exactly free-range back then, but this was the genius. If you insulated tightly enough and used underground storage, you could slow the melting of any ice you somehow managed to collect. More on that later. You pass by a child chasing a dog who is definitely not interested in being chased. Overhead, an oil lamp flickers from a rooftop ledge. The stars blink, disinterested. Life in the desert, despite its brutal simplicity, moves with a kind of poetry. You start to see it. The elegance, the rhythm, the way every bit of heat and cool is measured like gold. The people here weren't just dealing with the elements, they were choreographing them. They knew when to store, when to vent, when to seal. And their storage wasn't just for meat or water, it was for delicacies, treats, perishables, medicine, even perfume oils that would otherwise spoil under the sun's tyranny. You notice that people don't drink from wide pots. They sip from narrow-necked clay flasks. That's deliberate. Narrow necks mean slower heat transfer. Everything here is thought through with a calm kind of brilliance. No waste, no shortcuts, just clever, slow design. A man nearby is pouring some sort of chilled drink into a tiny silver cup. He catches your eye and smiles. Sekanjabin, he says softly. A sweet and sour syrup made of vinegar and honey, sometimes cooled with ice, if you were lucky. You take a sip. It's tart, refreshing, and shockingly cold. You want to ask questions, but the man's already disappeared into the crowd. Was it magic? A mirage? Probably not. But it was Persian refrigeration, ancient, practical, and mysterious all at once. And this is just the beginning. That cup of chilled syrup is your first taste of a civilization that refused to be bullied by the sun. Section 2. You follow the last flicker of the man's lantern around a corner into a narrow alley that smells faintly of mint, dust, and roasted chickpeas. The walls close in just enough to make you lower your voice, not that you were planning to narrate out loud anyway. This feels like a place where sound travels slowly, like molasses. The air shifts, cooler here noticeably. You pause, letting your hand brush against the wall. It's smooth, worn from centuries of backs and baskets leaning against it. You emerge into a small courtyard, quiet except for the whisper of breeze skimming over a shallow pool. In the center sits a squat, unassuming building made of that same dense, pale mud brick. There's nothing flashy about it, no grand carvings or banners. But when you step inside, the air changes. It hugs you. It hushes you. Welcome to a Persian domestic fridge. Well, sort of. This is where the ice, or at least the chilled things, are kept. You notice how the floors are slightly sunken, the windows absent. The walls feel like they're breathing. There's no artificial anything, just clever geometry and natural physics doing their thing. In the corner, a woman gently lifts the lid of a pot and pulls out a cluster of what looks like dried rose petals sitting on chilled cloth. She smiles when she sees your curiosity and beckons you closer. Inside the pot, little candied lemon peels, glistening as if they just remembered dew. Still cool to the touch, in the desert. And this is no trick of sorcery. It's insulation. Long before anyone had ever heard the words eco-friendly, the Persians were building their lives around thermal logic. Thick walls, low ceilings, sunken courtyards, and generous use of shade. You feel it now, the difference between the air outside and in here. Out there, the breeze tries to knock you flat. In here, it swirls gently, like a cat kneading your ankles. Historians still argue whether these cooling systems were first developed for food preservation or for ritual purposes, especially given the way some courtyards are aligned with astronomical patterns. Some believe they doubled as spiritual spaces, sanctuaries of stillness. Others say, nope, they just really wanted their yogurt not to spoil. Either way, these methods were passed down, quietly and consistently, from generation to generation. Look around and you'll see the tools of that cool-keeping life. Clay jugs half buried in sand for insulation. Damp cloths stretched across wide-mouthed pots, evaporating just enough moisture to drop the temperature inside. It's a home built like a machine, with no moving parts. You wander past a wall where something hangs like a tapestry. Closer now, you realize it's a thick wool mat soaked and hung across a doorway. A primitive swamp cooler. As air passes through the wet fibers, it loses heat. It's a trick that seems too obvious to be ancient. And yet, it works. You lean near it and sigh. This is desert air, tamed. A teenage boy runs by carrying a clay tray of some pale mush, topped with dates. It's faluda, a chilled dessert made with thin noodles, rose water, and, when they were feeling fancy, a handful of snow or crushed ice. Don't ask how they had crushed ice. Yet. But you're starting to see the logic. The secret wasn't just ice. It was control. Controlling when to let the heat in, when to let it out. Controlling materials, clay, water, sand, shade, like notes in a symphony. A particularly fun fringe tidbit? Some families believed that putting a single fresh mint leaf atop their food storage jars would scare away the heat. Superstition or symbolic wisdom? The mint didn't do much thermodynamically, but it did give the illusion of freshness. And sometimes, perception is part of the strategy. You linger in the courtyard as the sun sinks low enough to blush against the horizon. Shadows stretch long and lazy. Overhead, a badger, a traditional wind catcher, rises from a nearby roof like a watchtower. You'll get up close with one soon. But even from here, you feel the breath of it moving through the alley, tugging at the hem of your sleeve like a polite suggestion. So much of ancient Persian architecture was built around these natural cycles of heat and cool, light and dark, stillness and breeze. No buttons, no batteries, just bricks and brains. And maybe a little bit of mint. Section 3. You leave the courtyard behind, the taste of rose syrup still ghosting your tongue, and begin to wander towards something in the distance. It's huge, rising like a sleeping volcano just beyond the edge of the village. Its surface glows golden in the dying light, dimpled and smooth like the inside of a seashell. You've found the yakhchāl. The word literally means ice pit. But let's not pretend that captures what you're looking at. It's part spaceship, part sandcastle, and part upside-down funnel cake. Towering at almost 60 feet tall, this dome isn't just for show. It's a full-blown refrigeration system with no wires, no compressor, and definitely no user manual. You walk around its curved base. There's a low, almost hidden entrance, and you duck your head as you step inside. Immediately, the air changes again. It's darker here, cooler. The temperature drops like it's late for something. Inside, the space is cavernous but oddly quiet, like sound's been politely asked to take its shoes off. The walls are thick, up to 2 meters in some places, and made of that same bizarre yet brilliant sarouge plaster. Remember? The one with egg whites and goat hair? It's all in the name of waterproofing and temperature control. If Tupperware and ancient wizardry had a baby, it would be sarouge. You squint through the gloom. A stone-lined pit sits in the center, deep, wide, dark. This is where the ice was stored, layered with straw, pressed down and packed tight, like prehistoric lasagna. Some estimates say these structures could keep ice solid for months, even into the brutal summers. And that's the whole trick. It's not about making ice, it's about keeping it. Think of the yakhchāl as a giant thermos, but one that could outlast dynasties. Now, here's where things get deliciously nerdy. The dome shape wasn't random. It was aerodynamic. The tall conical structure reduced the sun's surface contact during the day and encouraged hot air to rise and escape through a ventilation shaft at the top. Meanwhile, the interior stayed cool, insulated, shadowed, and blessedly dry. You run your hand along the inside wall. It's rough and cold, like touching a sunburned elephant who just took a dip in the pool. Light filters in through small vents near the base. just enough to see, not enough to warm. There's a small alcove carved into one side where you notice a clay jar labeled with a fading symbol, perhaps the mark of a merchant or a family. Historians still argue whether these storage spaces were communal or privately owned. Some believe nobles monopolized access, while others claim village councils oversaw distribution. There's even one fringe theory involving a camel lottery. Yes, really. But what we do know is that the yakhchāl was a community marvel. Not just a freezer, but a monument to planning, collaboration, and absolutely refusing to let nature win. You sit on a low stone bench, chilled from centuries of ice and quiet. You imagine the workers, bent over, sunburned, hauling slabs of winter-harvested ice in straw bundles. You imagine the children sneaking spoonfuls of chilled yogurt in summer, giggling like they'd cracked some ancient sorcery. And then you hear it. Drip, drip, drip. A single drop of water falls from a crack in the wall into the ice pit. Even after all this time, moisture lingers. The yakhchāl breathes. Some of these structures are still standing, by the way. Over 1,000 years old, just chilling there. Pun very much intended, defying sandstorms, neglect, and time itself. And perhaps the most charming detail? Some had small decorative spires at the top. Not for function, just flair. Because even a desert fridge deserves a little crown. You stand up, stretch, and take one last look around. This isn't just a building, it's a philosophy that even in the harshest places with the right design, you can find comfort, calm, and maybe even a bowl of something cold and sweet. Section 4. You step out of the yakhchāl and into the hush of a desert night. The stars are sharp now, like they've been freshly chiseled. There's a faint rustle of palm trees, the occasional snort from a tethered camel, and yes, somewhere nearby, the sound of ice cracking. Ice. In the desert. Time to see how it gets here. You begin walking toward the outskirts of the village. It's winter, and the air bites now, dry and brittle. You pass rows of shallow rectangular basins carved into the earth, just a few inches deep. They stretch across the plain like a strange, watery quilt. These are the ice fields. Rudimentary, elegant, and incredibly effective. You crouch near one. By day, the sun would turn these into puddle baths, but at night, the desert flips its script. With no clouds to hold in warmth, temperatures plummet. In winter months, that means freezing, enough to turn a few inches of water into a solid sheet of ice. You imagine the villagers waking before dawn, wrapped in layers, stomping their numb feet as they walk the rows. Each basin holds its prize, a thin, fragile pane of ice. It's not much on its own, but that's the beauty of it. Over and over, night after night, they collect and layer it inside the yakhchāl, like building a frozen lasagna of resilience. And they had tricks to speed things along. Some say they'd line the basins with black stone to absorb just enough heat by day and radiate cold faster by night. Others believe they used reeds to break the surface tension, helping the water freeze more evenly. Historians still argue whether these enhancements were widespread or just isolated village hacks. You rise to your feet and follow the soft crunch of straw underfoot. A team of workers, bundled, stoic, and half asleep, are loading frozen sheets into wicker baskets. They work in silence, each movement precise. No one rushes. They don't have to. This is what they've trained for all season. Here's where it gets physically absurd. Sometimes the ice had to be hauled miles across the desert, often at night to prevent melting. Camels carried it, wrapped in straw and cloth, trudging silently under moonlight, like some kind of refrigerated parade. And yes, the irony is thick. Camels, the ultimate symbol of desert heat, used to transport ice. Somewhere, Mother Nature is giggling. You trail behind a camel caravan for a bit, listening to the bells jingle softly. It's soothing in an odd way, like the desert's own lullaby. And in those moments, it's easy to forget how harsh this place can be. But the villagers never did. They respected it, worked with it, turned the cold into a collaborator, not a curse. One older man, face lined like sun-baked leather, pauses by a frozen trough and runs his hand over the ice. He mutters something in Old Persian. You don't need to understand the words. The reverence is clear. This isn't just ice. It's effort, memory, survival in a glassy disguise. Fringe detail? In some areas, families would press flowers or petals into the ice as it froze, creating decorative chunks reserved for special ceremonies. Picture that. A wedding feast with floral ice cubes centuries before Pinterest boards were a thing. You continue walking, watching as more ice is harvested. It's strangely satisfying. The rhythm, the patience, the sound of brittle sheets sliding against each other. In a world obsessed with speed, this slow ritual feels meditative. The process wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. It just worked, again and again. And somehow, this community chore became a seasonal celebration. People brought warm flatbread, dates, and tea. Children skated in the shallow pools once the ice was cleared. Well, more like shuffled awkwardly, but you get the idea. You close your eyes and let the scene settle in. The air is biting, the stars are humming, and in the middle of nowhere, ice is being born. Tomorrow, they'll store it. Next week, they'll chill drinks with it. Come summer, it'll be a lifeline. But for now, it's just frozen water, cracked by quiet hands, loaded by tired camels, and treated like treasure. You turn back toward the village, walking slowly, crunching frost underfoot. The desert may be dry, but tonight, it's anything but lifeless. Section 5. You make your way back toward the village, feet crunching on frostbitten soil, the stars still glaring down with the kind of smugness only celestial bodies can get away with. But now your attention is pulled sideways, literally, by a faint whoosh of wind to your left. You turn. There, rising from the rooftop of a modest clay home, is a tall, open-topped tower. It's rectangular, pierced with vents that seem to suck and exhale air in a slow, purposeful rhythm, like a stone throat breathing through the night. You've found a badger, or windcatcher. These were the ancient world's passive air conditioners, and the Persians were among the first to perfect them. You climb a nearby ladder. Don't worry, it's a dream ladder, no splinters, and step onto a flat roof strewn with clay pots and a single sleepy cat who offers you exactly zero help. The badger stands above you now, its vertical shaft stretching skyward, mouth open to the desert breeze. You place your hand near the bottom opening along the wall, and there it is. Cool air, moving. Not a gust, but a constant, deliberate stream. How does it work? The principle is simple. Hot air rises, cool air falls. But the execution? That's where Persian genius comes in. The tower captures even the gentlest of breezes, channels it downward into the living space, and, if connected to a qanat, which we'll get to soon, can even cool the air using the evaporation from underground water. Standing here, you can feel it. An invisible system that turns architecture into atmosphere. No moving parts, no pollution, just physics and patience. Historians still argue whether the idea of the badger originated in Persia or was influenced by Egyptian and Mesopotamian designs. But what's clear is that by the 5th century BCE, Persians had elevated the concept. Literally, some towers had directional vents to catch wind from multiple angles, like a weather vane made of mud brick. You climb down into the home beneath the tower. Instantly, the air shifts again, cooler, less stagnant. carrying the faint smell of cinnamon and clay. A woman is folding cloth near a water basin. The basin isn't just for washing. It acts as a thermal anchor, helping stabilize the air temperature. In one corner sits a sleeping child, tucked into a bed raised off the floor, near a ventilation opening. Not too close to the ground, where warm air clings. Not too high, either. It's deliberate, and you feel the sleep science at play, centuries before white noise machines and blackout curtains. You pass through the next room and descend into a small underground chamber. The steps are worn, curved slightly inward from countless barefoot descents. Down here, there's silence and coolness. A clay jar sits in the corner, half submerged in the earth. Inside, yogurt, still chilled. It almost winks at you. A fringe fact for your inner trivia dragon. Some badgers were designed with dampened internal surfaces to promote extra cooling through evaporation. In hot, dry climates, this meant a noticeable drop in temperature. Basically, these towers could turn a 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degree Fahrenheit room into a tolerable 27 degrees Celsius, 80 degree Fahrenheit, and do it silently. You sit on a low stool and let the cool air waft over you. You can hear it now, like a whisper from the earth itself. This wasn't just technology. It was harmony. The badger didn't fight the environment. It danced with it. You stand, stretch, and exit back to the rooftop, just in time to catch a waft of something cooking. A tang of sumac, garlic, maybe lentils. Below, in a neighboring courtyard, a man adjusts the angle of a cloth canopy strung between walls. Even the shade is strategic. Every gesture here is about thermal choreography. And you realize, this isn't just a clever trick to stay cool. It's a way of life, a philosophy that honors wind, temperature, sun, and shadow as daily companions, not enemies. You rest a moment longer, letting the windcatcher hum above you. Tomorrow, this home will be sweltering. But for now, tonight, it breathes easy.